Minister. Now we're going to be hearing from our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honourable Andrew Holness. Thank you, PM.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Jamaicans here and overseas who may be watching this press briefing. Firstly, a few comments on the system itself. The system is quite an unusual one, sitting in the Caribbean Sea for such a long time, making up its mind where it will go. It is obvious that it now has a trajectory where we can, with great certainty, say that Jamaica will be impacted. Let me be clear that the entire Jamaica will be impacted by this storm. The outer bands seem to be very wide, and it is already affecting the Dominican Republic and Haiti with significant rainfall. We should expect the same. So the first impact that we should be preparing for would be heavy rains. Once it becomes a major hurricane, which is projected to be within a day, then we will have heavy winds. The third impact will be the length of time that it will stay. If it continues to be as slow moving as it has been, then we could expect anywhere from 2 to 3 days. Would that be correct, Evan? Or even longer. So those are the three things you should be, in your mind, be prepared for. Now, I know that there are many Jamaicans who are anxious, who are very concerned, and rightfully so. You should be concerned. But the best way to address anxiety and any nervousness and concern is to be prepared. So I would urge all my fellow citizens, everyone who is now feeling nervous, anxious, uncertain, that now is the time to be prepared. And the elements of preparedness for a hurricane would be, first of all, you want to protect your shelter. That's absolutely critical, because in a hurricane, you would need to be somewhere where you can be sheltered. Roofs, windows. Start there. Battening down. So I noticed that many Jamaicans are putting building blocks on their zinc and so forth. That is a solution, but a better option would be to use sandbags, which stay longer and are not likely to be blown off. If you can find plywood or anything of that form to protect your windows, that would be useful. We always say to remove threatening branches from trees. We have seen one incident where someone was injured trying to do that. So we advise that if you're doing that, be super careful in doing that. The next layer of preparation would be to look for areas that are vulnerable to flooding. If you find that your yard is below road level or in a water zone, meaning you have built in a river course, you're on a slope, you're near to the sea, you're in a low-lying area, you're close to or on a gully bank, or historically, you are in an area where the river may change course. You want to take protective measures. And again, simple sandbagging can be useful in directing water away from your shelter. Once you have sorted out your shelter issues, then you have to look for sustenance, food and water. Make sure that you have food that is non-perishable and water that is in proper containers, scaled to the number of persons who live in your household. Then you want to look for ensuring that you have at least some form of lighting, because it is highly likely that the electricity will go either preemptively or as a result of the storm itself. Batteries and flashlights are recommended. The good old home sweet home lamp is always there, but we're always very careful, last resort. Batteries and flashlights, today's technology with LED lights, you can have lights going for a little while in the night. Solar lamps are always good to have. These are things that you would want to have in your possession. Of course, in today's world, telecommunications is important. Make sure you have at least some credit if you use prepaid plans, that you keep your devices safe. And we can't give you any guarantee that throughout the storm you will have full coverage. It is likely that you may have some coverage at some point, but you should always, in your hurricane plan, be prepared that you may be out of communication. But nevertheless, keep your instruments safe. Don't let them get wet, so that at least if the signals were to come back, you'll be able to connect. Now, having done all of that, there is another important thing which we ask you to do. Keep your documents safe. Now, your identification, your passport, any prescriptions that you may need to be refilled, your land titles and all of those things, keep them safe. Keep them in a safe place. Yes, there would be distribution of benefits without the need for identification, but that would be very limited. In fact, in the humanitarian relief and recovery phase, I would say that most, if not all, the distribution of benefits will require some form of identification because of the accountability issues that, even though it's a hurricane, we can't suspend accountability. So keep your identification safe. There are some other things that we would want you to do in being prepared. Speak with your children about the hurricane, because they are going through their own uncertainty crises, which you may not immediately recognize. They may not take it seriously. Some may think of it as fun, and they may run outside and run in the rain playing football, and accidents can happen. We urge you to have a frank discussion about what to expect in a hurricane and why it is important to stay sheltered during the hurricane. We don't want to have any deaths during the hurricane. And an important part of that is to keep your household inside safe. Outside of that, communities are an important response tool to the hurricane. I remember during Gilbert, the community in which I live, everyone came together. And that helped to keep the community safe. It helped to deal with emergencies, and just good old sitting down, talking, dealing with the challenges that would have occurred. In today's parlance, we say it helps with the mental health. So community is important. Looking on your neighbor, reach out to your neighbor, find out what is happening, ask how you can help, or ask for help. Very important. Outside of that, there is the local government response. And Minister Mackenzie would have addressed this issue of what the local government is tasked and resourced to do. And then there is the national response. Now, I know that at this time, there are many persons who simply have no resources at all. They are not able to go to the supermarket and buy even one bag of crackers. I am aware. And we have tasked the Ministry of Social Security to start to pre-position supplies, but in all reality, we wouldn't be able to get supplies to everyone who is genuinely in need of the supplies. The most immediate first responder is usually, it's either your church or your member of parliament or your councillor, the police. So we are going to make provisions for the councillors and the members of parliament to be able to, where they can, because they are humans too and they wouldn't be able to be out in this storm, but as much as they can, we will resource them to be able to assist. They will, and I'll be clear with this, they will not be able to assist every case. It's just physically not possible. But in as much as cases are brought to their attention, their network of workers and community activists and so forth would have brought cases to their attention, then we can assist. We are very grateful and very thankful for the philanthropic organizations that exist in certain communities that are already starting to mobilize and doing work. We intend to reach out to most and cooperate with them and assist them in being able to get supplies and distribute. Which leads me to another point of preparedness nationally. And that at this time, there must be a unified position with all the civic stakeholders and all our political stakeholders. And so I have been in communication with the leader of the opposition. We should meet today at, I believe, 12:30, and I will give the opposition a full brief. I'm certain that they will have suggestions which we will listen to and take on board. And if determined, then we will have a Zoom call with members of parliament. I know many of them are in the field, so it depends on how many that we would be able to mobilize. But we have already provisioned them with resources to clean drains and gullies. I know many of them are out in the field supervising these works. From being a member of parliament myself and having gone through this many, many times over, your constituents are of the belief that every drain and every gully is going to be cleaned. That may not be possible. Certainly, you would need much more equipment mobilized than we have capabilities to do, much more supervision. And so what the MPs would be doing would be trying to concentrate on the main ones. That is where their efforts would be. So if you didn't see the drain running behind your yard being cleaned, don't believe that no work is happening. Work is happening, but it may not be in your locality. That is being monitored by the NWA, and we will get a report very soon as to how many drains we were able to clean. That is indeed a very important preemptive action when it comes to treating with flooding. So outside of that, from an administrative point of view, all our entities have been tasked and mobilized. I suspect all the officers understand what the mission is. It is, from all indications, it is going to be a direct hit, and all of Jamaica will be impacted. I urge everyone to be wise about this, to put aside the nervousness and the anxiety, and be practical, prepare, as I have outlined, how we should be prepared, and continue to pray. We have seen hurricanes at the last moment take a turn for the better. And I still have hope that the impact will not be as bad as it is shaping up to be. But we will prepare for the worst and continue to pray for the best. The impact whatever it is, the preparation can have some mitigating effect on the impact, but the real work starts the hour after the impact. And what we have done in terms of national preparedness is to put everything in place to be able to respond the hour after the impact. And that is how quickly we intend to recover from this hurricane. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. You would have heard earlier from Minister Vaz. You also heard from Minister Mackenzie, Minister Green, and also Minister Samuda. If you have any questions, and Prime Minister just closed out, and I see the Observer has the first question.
Good morning. Good morning still, Prime Minister. A quick one for you. You speak about the recovery. In your administration had started a cat bond with World Bank with about US $150 million. Not sure if Hurricane Beryl triggered that catastrophe bond, and is it still in place?
Still in place.
Still in place.
Still in place, yes.
And how will we trigger it, PM?
No, I hope it's not triggered. As I stand here, I don't want it to be triggered.
What triggers it?
It is dependent on the level of damage. And I think it's also dependent on the wind, the wind category. Mm-hmm. So we're hopeful that we don't have significant winds, which would translate to not having significant damage.
All right. Nationwide.
Morning, Prime Minister. Morning to the room again. Given, we spoke with Evan Thompson earlier, he was telling us that different places are at different risks based on their characteristics. Persons in hilly areas might be susceptible to landslides, those in the coast might be susceptible to flooding. Given that we have MPs in here, the question to all the MPs would be, based on the characteristics of your constituency, are there any special warnings you want to give to the constituents in terms of areas that may be susceptible to a different type of damage compared to somewhere else? Are there any specific instructions?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't want to call out areas. I usually leave that to the technical persons because I don't know all the areas. But let's take Port Royal, for example. So Port Royal is a low-lying area. Just the nature of that peninsula would leave it vulnerable. And we ask the persons there to take precautions. I would have come in at the tail end of the presentation of Minister Mackenzie. And I can understand the reluctance of persons who are attached to that community and attached to the land. They don't want to be displaced, and they want to be able to protect their assets. But my advice to them, because it's no advice, I'm awaiting the minister's recommendation for it to become a compulsory order to relocate, to evacuate. I would advise them to, if they don't want to go to a shelter, because a shelter would be open, and I believe the shelter, Minister Mackenzie, would be the arena and Windward Road Primary. I would recommend that they make contact with family and make arrangements to stay with family. And that's one area. The other area would be Rocky Point and the general Portland Cottage area. Those areas have historically flooded, even in Beryl. I know the residents there are quite resourceful, and I've seen some do the sandbanking, channeling, and all kinds of other measures. But given not just the severity in terms of the projected wind and rain, but this other dimension of the length of time that it will stay. If it stays very long, then even your best measures could be thwarted by just the duration of rainfall and wind. So I urge every Jamaican who are residing in these vulnerable areas to make plans to evacuate. Now, the compulsory evacuation comes with the provision of transportation. We won't be able to do it in all cases, but in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, we will provide transportation to move you to safe ground. Outside of that, because the provision of transportation would be halted at a particular point in time, because that would be putting our drivers and buses and other persons in harm's way. After that, we would not be able to guarantee a response until after the hurricane. And so I'm just putting it very frankly that if you decide to violate an order to evacuate, you are essentially taking a risk with your life.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? None? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. And I think Minister Mackenzie just wanted to say something.
Prime Minister, one of the things that we picked up in a survey that we did is the question of mental health and people under stress. So to advise the public that there will be a medical team within the command center that will be able to respond to calls from individuals who are showing signs and expressing certain kind of tendencies during what is going to be anticipated to be a very, very difficult period, and that will be put in place, and we will make those numbers known shortly before the end of the day.
All right, thank you very much. That's a very good point, and Minister Green wants to make one final point too.
Just to indicate that we will be closing all our botanical gardens. The botanical gardens do fall under the Ministry of Agriculture, so as of tomorrow, all our botanical gardens will be closed until further notice.
All right. Thank you very much, Minister Green. So again, this is our 4th day of doing daily press briefings. We believe it's very important that we keep the nation apprised of everything that's going on. We have to be apprised of everything, and our ministers are working really hard. You see them here. They're in their constituencies also. They're dealing with their ministerial duties. Our Prime Minister has said that we are all on call, and we will continue to keep you updated with the latest information. Evan did a fantastic job this morning, and you were able to ask a lot of questions. We got some of the questions in from the media that were also online, and it is a dire situation, but we continue to pray. And as an administration, we commit to you that we'll continue to keep you informed. So please pay attention to reliable sources. And I want to thank the members of the media. I want to thank all of the media houses for playing these press conferences live so that Jamaicans can have access to it. We will continue to provide information. It may not be in this form. We may have to go online and do some updates online. Evan will be doing that throughout the day. Today we'll be doing that through the weekend and into early next week. There will not be an information vacuum from the administration. And now PM has something else he would love to say.
Oh no, as you mentioned, information. Jamaicans should be aware that the prediction of the course of the storm is not a precise science. And there are several models, and we take the best of the models plus our own indigenous knowledge of our situation to give the best projection. But as an act of God, we have no control over what nature may decide to do, and it can shift, which is why we need to give you the up-to-date information. So we may have said something yesterday or even an hour ago, but the situation has changed. And so we need to bear that in mind. It's very important that we say this, because in the decentralized media world in which we live in, where technically we have citizen journalists and every opinion can be broadcast, the impact of the broadcast of an opinion or information that is not accurate in the time of a disaster can have impactful consequences and can impact the outcome of the efforts. So I'm urging everyone to be, at this time, responsible. Use social media for what it was designed to be, social, not antisocial media. So let's use the media for the positive reassurance. Of course, bring to attention issues that may occur, but don't use it as a means to create depression in the minds of citizens. And many persons going through very difficult times now, as I've said earlier, uncertain times, and we need to be cautious of that. Secondly, I did not recall to mention in my presentation that a part of managing the response to the pandemic is to manage trade and commerce, to ensure that our supermarkets, our shops are properly stocked and that our distributors have stocks in their warehouses. I have been briefed by the Minister of Industry and Commerce that the trades have reported that they have sufficient stock to carry us through the initial phase of the weather event and to carry us even during the relief and recovery phase. One of the challenges we have picked up is that because the hurricane has been not so definitive in when and where, persons may have taken actions that would have seen either the closure of hardwares or supermarkets, and so there are persons who still have not been prepared and are finding it now difficult at the last moment. So I'm going to take this platform. We're not going to be using any of the powers that we could use under the RMA, but we're taking this platform to urge our suppliers and distributors to consider keeping their shops and warehouses and supermarkets open for as long as possible to ensure that our citizens are able to get supplies. I believe that we could do this even up to tomorrow early. Evan?
Yeah, well, actually today is the last day to do that kind of...
Today?
Yes, the rains will start tomorrow,
by tomorrow. So as long as you can keep your of course, we're asking you to use your discretion and judgment in this matter, but I'm still making the appeal for as long as you can to keep your supermarkets, your shops, your corner shops open so that people can get supplies for as long as you can. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Is there another question? No. Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you all. And as I said, we'll continue updating you. Please pay attention to GIS, Met Office, ODPEM, the Prime Minister's page. You will be getting information throughout today, throughout the weekend, and into early next week. It is a hurricane. It is not something that is an exact science. So anything can happen. It can turn. And so we have to make sure that we know what is happening. So please keep informed, and we will keep informing you. And as always, as we end today, we pray that God will continue to bless Jamaica land we love. Thank you.